That old tattoo looks like nothing special, right? You'd probably miss it if you were just passing through. Maybe think it was just some faded ink from a wild youth. That's exactly what those guys at the center table did. I caught their sideways glances, the snickering, the kind of laughter that stings a little, you know? All aimed at this old man, sitting alone in the corner of the restaurant, just nursing a glass of water like it's all he's got left in the world. His hair was snow white, his jacket about 2 decades past its prime, and yeah, his left wrist bore that washout tattoo. But he didn't say a word, just sat there, holding his glass, not even flinching when the laughter crept a little louder. Then, and this is the part that gets me, a young guy in uniform walks in. Navy SEAL, you can just tell by the posture, the haircut, the way he moves, like he's got purpose wired into his bones. The whole place goes dead quiet the second his eyes land on that tattoo, like somebody cut the wires on the jukebox. And me? I'll be honest, would I have stood up, or would I have just stared down at my pancakes, pretending I didn't see a thing like everyone else? It was Sunday morning at New Holland Central, the place buzzing for the Veterans Day special. They give a little discount, sure, but let's not kid ourselves, it's mostly a PR thing. Anyway, the old man, Robert Ellis, he's sitting at this tiny corner table with a metal prosthetic leg sticking out awkwardly, tray balanced on his lap, glass of water sweating in his hand. No uniform, no medals, not even a ball cap to signal he'd served, just a battered brown jacket, and that tattoo, a dagger through an anchor, old as the hills. For middle-aged guys, local types, are cracking jokes about him. But he drew that himself? You think he's even got a real vet card? It gets worse, trust me. A server, looking all kinds of uncomfortable, comes over and leans in real gentle. Sir, I'm sorry, but we've had a complaint. Would you mind sitting outside instead? And you can see Robert swallow whatever pride he's got left, doesn't make a scene, just nods, picks up his tray, and limps toward the door, right hand tied around his food, left gripping the cane. That limp is no act, it's the story of his whole life. A little kid tugs at his dad. Why does that man walk so funny? And the dad, not even whispering, just says, just a homeless guy. Ignore him. Robert shuffles past the laughing table, and one of the guys goes, if he's really a SEAL, then I must be a general. The laughter that follows is sharp, ugly. Robert doesn't respond, doesn't even look back. But you see it, one tear, quiet as can be, slides off his chin onto the tile. Nobody moves to stop him. Nobody asks. Even the manager, he watches for a second, then just goes back to his register. I swear, there's a whole sermon in that silence. He pushes outside, balancing his dignity and his tray, sunlight glaring off the windows, scanning for a table where nobody will bother him. The patio is mostly empty, probably by design, and Robert finally settles in, lowering himself slow and careful. The eggs and toast are already going cold. It's the Veterans Day special, but you know, it doesn't feel special at all. Out here, it's just Robert and the sound of traffic, and maybe a waitress sneaking a look through the window, the only person who seems to see past his ragged coat. She's new, just 2 weeks on the job, and there's something in her eyes. Maybe the way she notices the old man doesn't snap back or complain, just sits there with this battered dignity, eating his breakfast on the wrong side of the glass. Because here's the thing nobody knows. Robert was a logistics tech on SEAL Team Bravo, 69, deep in the kind of missions they still don't talk about on TV. Lost his leg on the Laos border, 1971, landmine, just doing his job, guiding supplies, pulling guys out when things went bad. Came home to nothing, no parade, no medals, not even a handshake. Half his missions are still blacked out in government files. For 30 years, he ran a little auto shop in Colorado, kept to himself, fixed kids' bikes for free, taught the local teens how to hold a wrench, but never bragged about the war. Carried that tattoo and an old letter from his CO, yellowed around the edges, that just said, "Thank you to the most silent soldier I've ever commanded." That's it. Each year on Veterans Day, he picked a restaurant and sat alone, not for the discount, but for the memory of a friend he couldn't save. Thing is, people always saw what they wanted, a tired old man, maybe a bit of a drifter. What they didn't see was that the limp came from hauling 3 men out of a burning Humvee, that the scars on his hands were from yanking wounded brothers from the line of fire. The place he picked this year meant something. It's where his best friend from the unit, James Harrington, used to say, "When we get back, burgers are on me." They made the promise the night before everything went sideways. Back then, Robert and his team were running supplies through hell, making sure the front line never went dry. James carried a faded photo of this very diner, swore the burgers were the best in the state. 8 miles from extraction, they hit a minefield. Robert got blown clear, woke up with his leg shredded, saw the medics zipping a body bag over James. For others hurt bad, but Robert's quick thinking, even half-conscious, got the medevac to their coordinates. He saved 5 men that day, but he couldn't save his friend. So he kept the promise, year after year, eating alone and remembering for both of them. That tattoo, dagger through anchor, wasn't some generic SEAL thing, just a mark their little squad came up with. Only 8 guys ever wore it. Now, as far as Robert knew, he was the last one still around. He's just sitting there, chewing his cold toast, when the back door opens and in comes this young guy, buzz-cut, clear eyes, carrying himself like he owns the ground. Name's Jackson Miles, 27, active duty SEAL, home for a couple weeks. He sees Robert, or more precisely, sees that tattoo, and you can almost hear the gears turning in his head. He walks right up, crisp as can be, and says, "Excuse me, sir, were you with SEAL Team Bravo?" Robert looks up, slow, like he's bracing for more trouble, but just nods, "Long time ago. Yeah." And then, this is the twist, Jackson snaps to attention, full salute, right in the middle of the busy restaurant. "Sir, you're the one they talk about at camp. LSG-7, right?" Robert can't even speak, just kind of nods, eyes wet. Jackson turns on the room. "If anyone here is uncomfortable, maybe you should be the ones to step outside." The men who laughed earlier shrink in their seats. An old woman in the back stands up and starts clapping, and soon half the restaurant is on their feet, clapping along, just for this old man who never wanted any spotlight. Jackson isn't done. He raises his voice. This man coordinated the extraction of 17 wounded during Operation Swiftkill. His protocol saved more lives than most frontline medics ever see. That tattoo, he earned it in blood. The whole place goes still, forks frozen halfway up, coffee cup stopped mid-sip. The manager comes rushing over. "Sir, please, it was a mistake. Your meal's on the house. Come back anytime." Robert just shakes his head, voice soft but steady. "I just came to remember a friend." Jackson asks if he can join, and together they sit, this time at the best table in the house. The men who laughed earlier quietly pay their checks and leave, heads down. The waitress, the one who'd watched him from the window, comes over with coffee, her hands trembling a little. "My granddad was in Vietnam, too. Never talked about it." Robert looks up, studies her face. "What was his name?" She swallows. "James Harrington. I never met him. He died before I was born." Robert's hands shake as he pulls out an old photo, the same one James carried, and slides it across the table. "He promised me a burger here someday," he says. The circle closes, right there. A week later, the local paper runs a story, "Old Soldier and the Salute That Silenced a Restaurant." The photo of Jackson's salute goes viral. The community starts showing up at the restaurant, asking about Robert Ellis, the quiet guy who lives 3 blocks away. School kids write letters wanting to hear his stories. Jackson goes back to base but writes Robert every month. Next spring, the town puts on a ceremony for 12 silent veterans, with Robert first to speak. He stands up and just says, "I'm not a hero, I just tried to do the right thing." After that, his little auto shop turns into a meeting place for veterans. Schools ask him to talk on Memorial Day. He never talks about himself, just about honor, sacrifice, remembering the ones who never came back. The tattoo everyone laughed at becomes a symbol, carved onto a plaque outside City Hall. "Honor the quiet ones." Jackson, now an instructor, tells his new recruits about Robert, the man who made sure nobody was left behind. On Robert's 85th birthday, Jackson shows up at his door with 7 young SEALs, and Sarah, the waitress, James Harrington's granddaughter. "He'd be proud you met me," Robert says, and the whole street gets renamed Silent Service Way, in honor of everyone who worked in the shadows. When Robert dies 3 years later, his funeral is packed. Hundreds wear little pins, dagger through anchor. 6 SEALs carry his casket. His old prosthetic is swapped out for a new one, donated by a veterans group inspired by his story. On his headstone, just 9 words. His silence spoke volumes. His service changed lives. And if this story hits you in the gut the way it does me, maybe it's time we quit looking away from the ones who gave everything and never asked for thanks. Let's talk. What would you have done that morning in the restaurant? Where's the line between respect and ignorance, between honor and indifference? I want to know how you see it. And if you've ever met someone like Robert Ellis, whose quiet changed your world, maybe it's time to say thanks while you still can.